July marks the beginning of Youth Month, with government agencies, including the National Youth Development Agency, commemorating this year's Youth Month under the theme, The Year of Charlotte Maxeke, and growing youth employment for an inclusive and transformed society. But numbers show that young people show the highest rate of unemployment. How do we get meaningful youth participation in the economy amid the COVID-19 and high unemployment figures? The NYDA CEO, Wasim Karim, joins me now to talk to this issue. Wasim, good evening, and thank you very much for your time tonight here on In Focus.
Good evening, Thabo. Good evening to your viewers as well.
It's a real challenge. We have not seen a significant drop in youth unemployment, at least in the last decade. Yet we do have an agency like the NYDA. Many are asking, what are you doing?
Yeah, thanks, Thabo. I think it's a fair question about not only what the NYDA is doing, but what government at large is doing to curb unemployment and particularly youth unemployment, right? And I think unemployment is a situation that has stayed with South Africa since we officially started measuring the numbers post-democracy. I think we know the devastating effects of unemployment on society, on people, on young people. And government has introduced a number of measures, whether they be policy-related, for example, the Youth Employment Tax Incentive, whether they be education-related, investments in the National Student Financial Aid Scheme, access basic education services. The seat as another example, skills development levy as a policy measure. And we've had huge, large-scale public employment in South Africa, right? The expanded public work program, community work program, these are globally recognized as mass-based public employment programs. So I don't think it's a case of nothing has been done to tackle unemployment. I mean, we can debate the pros and cons and the merits of some of the policies that have been introduced. But they have not had the meaningful impact in reducing or meaningfully reducing unemployment to the sort of rates you would see in the developed world. And it kind of tells you that South Africa's unemployment is very structural in nature. Yeah. I think if we look at more recent history, the sixth administration and the presidency has really made it a core focus to focus on youth unemployment. And that culminated in the president's announcement sort of around SONA 2020 of the Presidential Youth Employment Intervention, which was specifically focused on solutions for young people, recognizing the specific barriers that young people face in accessing economic opportunity. COVID-19 has disrupted some of those plans, but I don't think it's changed the commitment of the administration towards tackling the problem. Yeah. And then I think you're seeing some initiatives. So, for example, phase one of the employment stimulus sort of introduced between October 2020, March 2021. You start to see some of those numbers come out a little bit, but it does require long-term systematic change if we want to meaningfully tackle unemployment over the long term.
Now, Asim, there is general admittance that there is still some more development work that needs to be done, particularly when it comes to young people in South Africa. But, I mean, if you look back what was happening 10 years ago and what is happening today, surely it can be argued that there are more portals of access to information. Young people are communicating more now on social media. Young people are communicating more now using technology. They can type a CV. They can send an email. One would say, looking at the NYDA, those are not the interventions that we are hoping would still be coming from the NYDA. We are looking for a new wave of interventions that would go further than just equipping young people with communications abilities.
Yeah, definitely. And Thabo, the last time I was on your show, I expressed a bit of sentiment about what we were referring to at the time as a National Pathway Management Network and the SAU platform. So certainly government recognizes that scaling through infrastructure is no longer feasible. It's no longer economically feasible, but also it doesn't speak to modern day technology, right? So you've got this SAU platform, which is representative of the National Pathway Management Network, right? And you have this opportunity to reach young people using a tech-based kind of solution. Yeah? It's a platform where young people can build a profile for themselves. They can access work readiness opportunities, they can access learning opportunities, they can access training. It works on smartphones, it works on feature phones, and most importantly, it's been zero rated by all of the telecommunications companies, which removes a heavy barrier. Access to data is one of the highest barriers for entry for young people in this country, right? So it's not only a supply side intervention, but it's also a demand side intervention, because there's almost this too much information for young people out there, and you know, democratizing information talks to both giving access to it, but also making it relevant for young people, right? So the beautiful part about SA Youth is that it aggregates opportunities from multiple partners across the youth employment spectrum, you know, connecting young people to opportunities that best match their profile, and connecting them closest to where they live as well. And just as a last point, just showing the power of a platform like that. As part of phase one of the stimulus, 300,000 young people were recruited as teachers' assistants and general assistants in 26,000 public schools. And that sign up and recruitment was done through the SA Youth platform. Yeah. And it showed the level of time that could be reduced in recruitment using a platform like that. But also, all of those young people now have skills and competencies that they can list on their profile that allows them to create pathways into other economic opportunities. So I think certainly government is not sleeping on the job. We're aware of developments, particularly around the tech sector, and we're trying to build solutions for young people around that. Yeah.
Now, the reality, of course, that many are raising, including the CEO of the Youth Employment Service, is that young people are locked out of networks of workers. As the NYDA, how do you bring them closer to those networks?
Yeah, I fully agree, right? So I mean, just to take a step back, I mean, research suggests to us that if young people live in a house where unemployment is high, they are more likely to be unemployed, because that's how networks are created. You know somebody who's employed in your household, and they connect you to an economic opportunity, right? But again, and I'm sorry to come back to it, but that's why SA Youth is such a powerful platform, right? Because suddenly it gives young people access to the type of networks that they would not have before, yeah. And as much as that's a tech-based solution where we're connecting young people to opportunities, we're improving the quality of those opportunities, right? So that when a young person enters a public employment opportunity or training opportunity, expectations are set out at the front about what a young person is also expected to achieve on an opportunity like that, how they should build their network, how they should be connected to other people, even on programs like service, where young people offer voluntary service in their communities to be able to build their networks. I think those are initiatives that are being pieced together that help young people on what we call a pathway, probably from being a young person into more adulthood, but also to establish more of a permanent foothold in the economy.
Right. So, I mean, are we to expect, I mean, not only on Youth Month, but also going forward in the work that you're doing, for example, the NYDA introducing more young people in the manufacturing space, however, be it maybe even at the lower level skills. We've seen agriculture doing particularly well, even in this time of COVID-19. Are we going to see a shift towards introducing young people in those fields?
Yeah, I mean, I think manufacturing potentially talks to two aspects, right? Now, I think we know over the last 10 years or so, South Africa has deindustrialized to a large extent. And I think that's the outcome of two factors, is that the energy crisis in South Africa has led to massive deindustrialization, but also our cost of labor relative to other manufacturing hubs is relatively higher, right? And then that has caused this level of deindustrialization. So I think there's two processes kind of underway that are driving an industrial strategy in the country. One is self-employment opportunities, so looking at small-scale manufacturing operations, and I think NYD is very relevant in that sector in supporting particularly township and rural entrepreneurs, whether it be through access to capital, access to skills development, access to market, and also subsidies to assist them in small-scale manufacturing opportunities. But then I think also particularly in the Department of Trade, Industry and Competition, there's the development of the master plan for about 8 sectors that really focus on one, localizing products and services that can be produced in South Africa and are relevant to the South African market, but also a reindustrialization strategy in terms of being on the cutting edge of technology and development in those sectors. And I think the transformative effect of manufacturing jobs is relevant. I mean, we only need to look at how our textile industry was decimated and how many, not only jobs, but communities, those kind of jobs supported in the past.
So in real terms, pragmatically, Wasim, what sort of partnerships are we likely to see then? I know there are a lot of limitations now with COVID and movement and whatnot, but as things begin to open up and this economy begins to be a little bit more active, by the way, it has done extremely well even in these circumstances.
Yeah, so I mean, I think I don't want to say too much. We want to leave some of our bigger announcements for Youth Day on June 16th. But let me say this, right? The SA Youth platform is ready and available for young people to be able to sign up to it. We encourage more partners, particularly on the demand side, to be able to sign up. Yeah, I think there's really wonderful partnerships that are coming together on the skills development side, particularly with the global business services sector and installation, repair and maintenance, and the ability to create jobs in those sectors is what, I mean, South Africa's now ranks number 2 in the world when it comes to global business services, call centers, data centers. We're only behind India when it comes to that sector. There's going to be a really exciting announcement with the European Union and the Department of Small Business Development around supporting young people in business through a challenge fund kind of mechanism. And then I'll just leave a small portion aside. I think the public employment opportunities over the next 12 months as part of phase 2 of the employment stimulus are really going to be exciting for young people. And then I think watch the space, particularly on June 16th, for some of those announcements.
Speaker of Parliament saying they've had quite a serious challenge in filling the vacancies at the board of the NYDA. Has that affected your work in any way?
Yeah, look, I mean, I've done a few interviews today, and I think the absence of a board is not good governance. We cannot say that an agency not having a board is good governance, right? So we're really happy that Parliament has restarted the process. I think the shortlisting has been done. The interviews are scheduled for later in the month in June. So we really look forward to welcoming a new board, because it's very important from an accountability perspective that there is a board at the agency. Yeah.
Wasim, I appreciate your time and thank you very much for joining us. NYDA CEO Wasim Karim there with us tonight.